Welcome, everyone. My name is Maureen Antunes, Festival Director for Spark Animation. Welcome to this session in our Meet the Filmmaker series, where we speak to filmmakers whose films are at this year's festival. And I am very pleased to have with us today the director of Eraser Ruckus that won the Director's Prize at this year's festival. Welcome, APPI, to Spark.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
And congratulations on the big win. That's super exciting.
Yeah, it's honestly it's a dream come true. Like I went to school for directing and then kind of gave up because I thought that it was like a child's dream and then went into editing and then went into animation and we're here and I'm getting a prize for directing and it's making me feel so good.
Oh, well, let's start there then. So you went to school for filmmaking. Like, was it live action, like just regular
Yeah,
filmmaking?
live action. I went actually, that was my first time in Canada. I went to Quebec, so other side of Canada. And I started directing. It was a really short program in the suburbs of Quebec in a really, really small town. But it was my first introduction to filmmaking, and I had such an amazing time. But then went back to France, and it's hard to find a job directly as a director. It's kind of like wanting to be, as your first job, you want to be the boss. So went to go and went back down the ladder. I fell in love with editing and thought that editing would be such a skill that would be important to have if you want to be a good director. You have to know the beginning, but you have to know until the end of production. And I thought that for pacing, storytelling, it would be super important. So I went to editing school for 2 years. Same thing, live action and went to VFS, fell in love with animation, thought about doing animation, especially after COVID, because it boomed. And I was like, wait, this is a way to make my movie and everyone's at home. So this sounds like a good idea. So yeah, went to animation, went to VFS here in Vancouver, and Razor Ruckus, my first film.
Okay, so talk a little bit about the inception of this little movie. Was this your student film?
It was post graduation. We talked about it. Noushin Emami, who's also the co-founder of my studio, Studio Neera, wrote the movie. It was her story. It actually happened to her. We exaggerated some things, but this is for sure. Like this is based on true events. We were actually making our final film, and everyone was sleep deprived. And it was one of those days. Nushin was like, "Listen, tonight I'm going home and I'm sleeping. Like I think I need it. It's super important." Haven't slept in days. And I remember she came back the next morning and she looked more tired than the day before. And I was like, Nushin, what happened? And she was like, you don't know what happened to me. And she told me the story about the razor and her brother left it on in the washroom and she wanted to turn it off and just never went off. And she spent the whole night trying to destroy it. Um, she told me, I remember in class, and I remember being so offended because she threw the razor in the water. I remember being like, I'm so sorry, Nushin, I don't find this funny. I just think I just think that's pollution. And that you must have found another way. I absolutely still to this day don't believe that this happened. And I still don't believe that she couldn't find any other way to destroy it. But our instructor, Jim Inkster, found it so funny. Nushin was like, fine, we'll make it our first animation then. And so that's the first animation of the studio.
Okay, so the film has a very unique look.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the visual style, the visual storytelling of the story?
Um, One huge inspiration was Vone, Vewn. She's a YouTuber and she makes these amazing, amazing short films. She's an independent filmmaker, and her style is such an inspiration that we went to get inspiration from that. We even left some little homages to her films in like maybe the art that's in the backgrounds and stuff. And then the unique color, the purple, was an homage to the drug lamps from Vancouver, the purple lamps that you find a lot in Gastown and in Yaletown. So that kind of like is what took the idea. Like purple has such this like mysterious and spooky vibe sometimes that we wanted to try to find some codes of horror and some codes of comedy, and purple kind of matched the fact that you're like, is something gonna happen that's creepy or is this just gonna be funny the whole time? So That was the purple. And yeah, we had Noah Ascano, who was my background supervisor, really helped develop the style and find the line art and stuff. So that was really fun.
What was your production timeline like?
I feel like, you know what, that is also something that really inspired the style. We did this in I think 10 weeks. When we already had the idea, we already had the script, we already knew we wanted to do this. So months before, I had already thought about the story. I had already did some drawings of thumbnails of shots that I was like, oh, this could be a cool shot. We had thought about what the characters were going to be. But I think in April of this year, we figured out that we wanted to make a movie, and that we are first student product after graduating. We were like, we're going to need to produce something, and we need to show it to people, so we need to hit a festival. So we were like, Ottawa's deadline is coming up, and it would be nice if we could send it to Ottawa. And that was end of May. So we were like, we're going to have to do this quick. And that style is so helpful to make something quick. Like sometimes that's the power of animation. You can just decide. And we pick this style. The perspective is not correct, which is super helpful when you're doing backgrounds, because sometimes just like the human error and doing something wrong will just make it even better. Um, we picked we experimented and we did character design. I think my storyboard artist did everything in, I think, 2 weeks. It was, yeah, I think she has carpal tunnel now. So yeah, I don't want to talk about it. But it was pretty crazy. It felt really like making a final film, but we don't get a final film in a group in VFS. You do it on your own. And this really felt like, the Gobelin gets to have like a really cool group projects, and we didn't. So it felt like that was the energy. Rushed. Everyone was trying to get something. Everyone did it for free. Everyone volunteered. They did it after their like day jobs, and they would go home at night and look at their shots. And it was, yeah. I'm super grateful. It was an insane experience. Like 10 weeks was so short.
I mean, so let's talk about that a little bit because I think two interesting things about what you've just said. The fact that one, everybody was working on this on their free time for no money. So, like, one, how do you even find that talent and how do you inspire them to stay on board to do this insane project in 10 weeks?
Hopeful, like, luckily we used everyone that we knew from VFS, sent them messages, told them about the project, put a pitch bible all together. um we got Toon Boom on board to sponsor us. We sent our pitch decks. Hopefully we were like, we want to make this short film, can you get us some licenses, which made us look really official to our fellow students, because then they were like, okay, this is a serious project. If Toon Boom is sponsoring, that's a huge name. I get to have a license. I don't have to pay anything up front. We offered to pay for festival applications to get their name out there, to credit their names, to really get like a portfolio piece that mattered on their portfolio. Um, I think I really tried to stay in touch with them, to check in with them every time, every week. We were doing everything on Discord. So maybe weekly meetings where I would go and show the new automatic and tell them, here, like this storyboard, because it was done in 2 weeks, doesn't have a lot of acting. So I would love you to offer some choices in that. So I think that also made it fun, that everything wasn't really tight. Sometimes you want a storyboard that's really tight because there's no room, it's tied to music, there's no everything is very well done and very prepared. It's been worked on for years. When you worked on it 2 weeks, the character goes from A to B. If you want to do a little skip in the middle, go ahead. And and as director, it was fun also to get everyone's takes on what they saw from the storyboard. And there's a lot of people who exaggerated, which was really, really good. And I think it also made the exercise fun for them. So I think that's maybe a way that they stayed on the project with me.
So that brings up an interesting point because the film has a very distinct voice And there's, like you mentioned, that the color purple was kind of on purpose because it's kind of like both fun and a little bit on the horror side. So
Mm-hmm.
it's walking that fine line. And Razor Ruckus also like kind of follows that trajectory where it's really funny in places, and then it hits you with something that's kind of horrific, but it's still light and fun. But it's always kind of playing on the side of horror, and it's really hard to keep that tone for, any period of time, never mind an entire short film. And then when you have that many people adding their own individual touches, that gets even more complicated. Can you talk about keeping how you manage to keep the tone like so even throughout the story when there's all these, the hands sort of like doing their own thing on this story?
It was really hard, I have to say. I had an amazing animation supervisor. I think style and the amount of animation and how does a character act, I think that really kept the main character's name is Gorbe. It means cat in Persian because Nushin's Persian. So she has to stay consistent. Her acting, the keeping the craziness go from small to big. It's small in the beginning. It's just, oh, okay, I'll just unplug it, and okay, I'll just hit it a little bit on the counter, and okay, I'll just throw it against the wall. And I think I stayed true to the emotion that Nushin was going through. So I think we knew that we were going to start slow and quiet, and then at the end, because you want people to feel the sound of the razor being buzzing and how annoying it is and how you want it to stop and you're tired. We kept the music going, the intensity going to really take it off when she gets rid of it. And because I didn't want to have the sound of the razor be there the whole time to really annoy people, because I was like in a theater if it really is as loud as it is. So we really had to push forward in the acting and in her behavior. So the acting was a huge way to really like continue the craziness and to keep like a line going. And then I think like I that's why I'm happy that I went to editing school. I think that was a huge film, is that I was editing my own film as well. Um, so I was able to see the beginning, communicate with the animators, hey, this is what I'm imagining for this shot. This is the intention, and this is where it is in the movie. So this is the level of craziness that you're supposed to keep going. And then being at the end, putting it back together, receiving the shot, seeing it all together in the editing room, and being able to see, oh, this doesn't work, or this is too much. So I was editing the way I was directing, just again because this was a movie done in such a small amount of time. You kind of doing 17 jobs at once. So it was really helpful to have a big crew. I think there were about 17 people who worked on it all together. Um, it was really hard to keep the main character on model. So I think that was also a great idea with the style, is that because her face moves so much, because she's so expressive, um, that was also like a huge help. But I think if we changed styles and if we changed the idea of spooky and crazy, um, there's a lot of our mistakes that would have come up. I think we really found a style that would suit the amount of time we had and the quality of what we were able to do. We didn't aim for something that looked better, that had a better level of animation, because it was simply impossible. And this was really fitting. That's the power of animation. We can make it look, and we can have the style embrace the story, and kind of they can cohabitate together like that, which is really really helpful. um I don't honestly, I don't really know how I did it.
It's a blur.
How did I keep all these people working together and staying true to the story? I thank you to the animators who believed in the story. Honestly, they're the one doing the acting. Sometimes I feel like they should get Oscars, especially in a movie that doesn't have a lot of acting words and performance. I'm like, this is the Oscar for best performance for this shot. Like they really got it. And I hopefully, like, I made a lot of PowerPoints, made a lot of slide guides, made a lot of meetings to be like, this is what we're doing, guys, this is where it's going, that's the intention that you should have when you do this shot. And also getting a lot of feedback from them. That was a huge part. Now I'm remembering, there was a lot of them animating on a shot, looking at the animatic, speaking up in meetings, being like, I don't know if this is the right way to do it. Maybe we should switch these shots. Um, in 2 weeks, you can't make something really good on your own, and that's the perfect way. When you have a team, you get constant feedback, and everyone is constantly questioning, why did you make this choice? And so you can always confirm with yourself. If you don't have the answer, you're like, oh yeah, why did I do it this way? And then see what they thought. And I think that was super helpful in keeping also the movie consistent. I had so many eyes on it at once, and I was allowing everyone's eyes to give me feedback.
But that's not something that a lot of, creatives do. Like it's very much this is my vision, my story. This is like, it's me. I'm guiding this ship. But you seem very open to, questions and criticism and, thinking back to like maybe this isn't the best way to do this. Is that something that you've always had, or do you think that that's something that's been learned over the course of your various careers in filmmaking?
I think it comes with age. Um, I think if I made this movie years ago, younger, in school even, I think I would have been more cocky, and I would have thought that I had all the answers. And I think collaborating through the years, you really see that if you want to make the best thing, then you have to let people in, and you have to let people give their opinions, um, especially when you want to make a movie that has appeal to multiple people. If I was making this little movie for me, independent, and it was my passion project, maybe it would be different. I'm lucky that this story wasn't, first of all, this story wasn't mine, which is huge to be able to take yourself away from the story, is that it's Nushin's story. So it didn't happen to me. I have an imagination, and so it's easy to see that everyone could have a different imagination, because I know how Nushin lived it, and that's not the way I see it in my head. You guys saw the way I saw it in my head, um, and that was really helpful to detach yourself from that. If I was making a movie that was like, I don't know, maybe a trans story that was attached to me, then maybe I would have a hard time letting people in if it was my memories, for example. But here it was such a fun project. It's almost like do whatever you want, but here are the limits that you have to stay within. Love that. Great exercise. I have so much to learn. This is my first film. Like, I need people's opinion. I need people to give me feedback. I need to be able to grow.
What was it like watching the film for the first time with Nushin?
It was really, really good. It was really good. Everyone was laughing. I think that was the more you see it, the less your movie's funny. Because you saw all the gags get from blocking to color. Um, I was coloring in my bedroom with my wife, all the scenes. Like, it's not, I sometimes, like, when you show it in the theater, you're like, I hate this movie. I don't even know why we're doing this. It's awful. We made it in 10 weeks. I don't even know what we were thinking, blah, blah, blah. And then we got such incredible feedback. Everyone was so happy for us because they saw nothing. And they were like, okay, you actually made a short film. And we were like, yeah, we went to school for this. Like, yeah, anyways, but everyone laughing was such a huge response. I am back to loving Razor Rockets. It healed me.
Watching it with people laughing healed you. But
Yeah,
how does Nushin
honestly,
feel about it? Is she healed?
Noushin has to deal with the fact that I publicly shame her every time for throwing a razor in False Creek. Although, you know what? From the things that are in False Creek in Vancouver, if you're in Vancouver, right, there's probably worse in there. I think the story could have gone on for so long. By the way, we were thinking about having really long credits. The credits are already long. We really wanted to continue the story. Um, but we really wanted to show everything that was in the ocean. We thought about doing shots of like just trash in the ocean at the end, but we were missing time. But yeah, Nushin has to deal with that. But Nushin loves it. She's so happy that this is, I feel like for her, it's kind of like the dream of something happened to me and now someone has made it, and now everyone can believe me that this happened and they have a visual of what happened. She doesn't have to tell the story. She can be like, here, watch a 7-minute film about it.
This is what happened.
This is what happened, basically. There you go. My
I
funniest
think
story.
I think what's really funny about it is like it starts as this, it's this one thing, this woman dealing with the fact that this razor just won't shut the hell up.
Yeah,
But then you have this environmental message at the end that's kind of like in another place, it might feel like it's slapped on, but for whatever reason, it totally works here.
I'm so glad.
At any point, was there like, does this need to be here? Should we take this out? Do we keep it in? Like,
I can show you the emails.
oh,
Listen, I remember one of my friends, same thing. When we sent the script, we sent it to a lot of people, people who are fans of cinema, people who are work in cinema, and people who have nothing to do, just to get feedback. Do you think this is funny? And at the end, one of my friends told me we wanted to have a message. Yeah, in the end, it explodes. She's walking home, huge explosion behind her, and then the words "Don't pollute." Come on. And my friend was like, "Don't pollute" is a little bit on the nose. And I was like, oh, damn it. Should we drop it? I think we did the credits the week before we had to send the submission. I remember we asked Marta, the one who did the credits, we asked her, we were like, okay, we don't know what we want to do, but we want to continue the story. I was still wondering if we should say anything about the trash, but that was a huge thing for me because that's the first thing that I felt.
yeah.
I do not have any sympathy for her. I was like, how dare you? So I knew I had to put in there somewhere. I just didn't know how. Um, and it's true that I remember when I told Noushin, I was like, why did you do that? She was like, why does Amazon make products that break? And I was like, okay, you know what? Fair enough. But really, you think that you couldn't hit it hard enough that it would stop? She really thought it was going to explode. I don't know what to say, but I really wanted in there. So we found a way to do it like post in the credits to be like, by the way, like kind of like no animals were harmed in this movie. It was more like you guys have a name for it in America. PTA, PSTA,
Oh, PSA,
PSA.
public service announcement.
There you go. But also they don't want it.
Yeah.
And because there was like the idea of like going underground and having the fish, that's the way also that we tied the story together. We were like, okay, let's see what happens when it goes down. And we had the fish be attacked by it as well. We thought that was funny. And we were like, okay, now there's a reason why you're going to say this story because we actually see the consequences. Yeah,
Yeah.
we make it funny and it doesn't explode on them. But yeah. Um,
So, you know, looking forward, and so you finished this movie, you had a goal in mind, right? It was to get it out to festivals, get people to see it, get people to see your work, make a bit of a name for the studio. Tell us a little bit more about the studio, why you guys formed the studio, what your goal is.
mm, Um, so Studio Neera is originally Noushin's dream. Studio Neera means holder of the light in ancient Persian language. So the goal, the dream is that together we can give a platform to everyone who has folk stories to tell, folk stories to preserve, even folk music. We want to make sure that we tell stories that are culturally relevant, culturally impactful. Although all of our stories want to be universal and want to teach people how to think and not what to think, there's always going to be a background. We want to give voices to everyone who's been unheard. Right now we're working on a little short for Halloween, and we want to, for example, we want to promote um, scary creatures from other countries instead of just using ghosts and witches and skeletons and mummies. Um, we're using some really creepy creatures from the Philippines, for example, and just a way to showcase more. Razor Ruckus wasn't really part of the message of Studio Neera, but we all have to start somewhere. That this was something that was doable. So there's a bigger goal, and we hope to bring that more and more. And hopefully, when we are able to finish like stories that are ready to be shown to the world, then we can keep on that message. We really had an idea to start something independent. We really wanted to have a place where we can get jobs to everyone that we know is talented and they're around us, just like help our community. We really had um Nushin has always wanted to own a studio. She comes from business, so this is something that she always knew she was going to do. Um, this is a huge leap of faith for me. And we really have to believe every day that this is going to work. So it's a huge test. But if we see it succeeding, we see so many good things happening around us that it really keeps us going. Just for me, the idea of having worked with all these people on Razor Ruckus and having given them a place to continue their art, and that was so important. And seeing everyone come together, seeing everyone show up at the premiere, seeing everyone talk about it, it's so rewarding. So with Studio Neera, hopefully it's a place for artists to come and tell stories that matter and preserving stories and culture that are dying. Like, the next story that we want to work on is a story about carpet weaving. And it's such a huge part of Persian culture. And it's a dying art because now they're machine made. So it was like one of the first ways for women to tell their stories. It was a woman's work. They would tell stories to the carpets they were weaving. And that's something that if there's no market for it, then no one talks about it anymore, and then it dies, and then they don't teach their children because there's no point. And so we really have to keep that going. And there's so many things in Canada that need to be talked about. Hopefully we can connect with some indigenous writers and storytellers that want a platform, and we can offer that to them. With the power of animation, I think there's so many things that we can do, whether it's on social media or on the big screen. So that's the goal.
Well, I think you're well on your way. Congratulations to you and the entire team on Razor Ruckus and Studio Neera. Can't wait to see more. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you at Spark again in the future. Again, congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much, Marina. Thank you so much at Spark and all the volunteers for putting this together. Very excited to see you guys at the Spark Festival.